Okay. Welcome everyone to our second Barnet Question Time event, where you have the opportunity to put your questions to members of our cabinet. The event is being recorded, so please don't share any confidential information, and we won't be dealing with any personal matters or confidential matters here. We just had a little run through how to work the cameras and the microphones, but just for those who've joined since, I know a lot of people will be used to Zoom, and Teams is a little bit different, but you should have a microphone icon, which when it's got the line across it, you're muted, and a camera icon. If you don't want to be on the recording, then please do keep your camera off, but it is nice to see faces, so nice that many of you have got your cameras on. You can view the chat function by pressing the little speech bubble. And if you're on your phone and you can't see some of the functions, they'll be accessed via the three dots at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. We will be prioritising people who put their hands up. Your electronic hand is at the top middle of the screen if you're on an upgrade or a PC, or you can get it on the three dots if you're on a phone. If you do want to ask a question in the chat rather than putting your hand up, we will periodically come to my colleagues to summarise some of the chat questions. If you see a question in the chat you particularly think we should answer, if you like it using the little like button, then we'll know which questions in the chat to prioritise. Okay, I think I have covered most of the housekeeping. Very grateful to you all for keeping yourselves on mute until you're asked to speak. I know it's very unlikely that as Barnet residents anybody will be in any way offensive or abusive or disruptive, but I do have to say that we do reserve the right to mute people if anyone does start to cause offence. With that, I'm going to hand over to Councillor Barry Rawlings, the Leader of the Council, for an introduction.
Okay, welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. Since we set up as a new administration in May last year, we've put in place a business plan, our vision for Barnet and so on. We actually looking at the words of caring for people, places. Now we know that to achieve this, it's a journey that we have to go on with you as local residents. We have to listen to you, we have to work with you, we know that you are directly affected by our decisions. And one of the ways we've done that is to set up this Barnet Question Time show. We have done other things, other ways for residents and businesses to engage. We have a public question time at full council, so anybody can come and ask the council a question. We have deputations on specific issues at both council and cabinet meetings. And we have our first briefings, especially for businesses, coming up in November. And we can post details about this in the chat. So one thing I want to start off with is that given what's happening in the world, and it's having an effect on a lot of people in Barnet or on any side, we're going to start with a minute's silence for all those who have sadly lost their lives. So we can all respect that. Thank you.
Watching. Huh? Watching.
Barnet.
Why?
Can I ask a question?
Oh.
Thank you for respecting that. I think we see it uppermost in our minds, but we will continue this so that if you do have specific questions, as has been said, we cannot deal with personal information. It's purely paper, so you do have the ability to put things in the chat. Some people got their hands up already. If we bring the table so different cabinet members can introduce themselves, so you know their names, the faces, and what areas they cover. So you, Pauline?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Councillor Pauline Copley-Webb. I'm a councillor for Freeham Barnet Ward, also the cabinet member for Family Friendly Barnet, which covers everything for children, education and safeguarding.
Hi, I'm Councillor Alan Schneiderman. I'm a Cricklewood Ward Councillor and Cabinet Member for Environment and Climate Change, which covers our wide safety agenda as well as roads, etc.
I'm Councillor Alison Moore. I represent East Finchley Ward. I'm the Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing, which includes the Council's work in public health, as well as the work we do in partnership with the North Central London Integrated Care Board, and I chair Barnet's Health and Wellbeing Board.
I'm Barry Rawlings, as well as being the accountant and councillor for Free and Barnet. I cover things like resources and the way the effective work of the council.
Hi, good evening everyone. It's lovely to see some familiar faces and names on here. I'm Sarah Conway. I'm a Barnet councillor and I cover community safety and risk and participation.
I'm Councillor Ross Houston. I represent West Finchley and I'm the Cabinet Member for Homes and Regeneration.
Hello, and I'm Councillor Sarah Berg. I represent Underhill Ward and I am the Cabinet Member for Equalities, Diversity, Inclusion, the Voluntary and the Community Sector.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Amar Naqvi. I am a Councillor for the Burnt Ward and the Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure, Arts and Sport. So I'll be overseeing our bid to be London Borough of Culture 2027.
Hi, I'm Anne Clark. I represent the Cricklewood Ward and my portfolio is Community Wealth Building, which is our new approach to economic development across Barnet that puts communities at the centre.
Can I ask everybody to make sure they're on mute if they're not asking a question, because we do have a bit of background noise and a little bit of an echo. I realise I didn't introduce myself. I'm Kath Shaw. I'm the Deputy Chief Executive of the Council, and I will be facilitating the Q&A this evening. Leader, if you're ready, we could go on to the first question, which I believe is from Natalie Pamela Cohen.
Oh, so when do you decide on the questions? I've put my hand up. Okay. So, fine.
Natalie. Yeah.
If you click the mic button, it will unmute you. If you're on a PC, it's the top right. There's a mic button. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yes. My question is regarding education for special needs. My granddaughter's been out of education for 4 years. And Barnet have not been doing their job to find her a suitable placement. She's 15 years old. She was in primary school from reception class to year 6, a mainstream school. She did very well. And then she did attend a secondary school, and they said they couldn't meet her needs anymore. And then she went to another special needs school for autism, and they said after about 5 weeks, she got a lot of bullying there, and they said they couldn't meet her needs anymore. And she's been at home for practically 4 years. And I'm very upset about it. I brought her up from birth. I'm her maternal grandmother and legal guardian. I brought her up from birth, but being out of school for 4 years has just had a bad effect on her.
I'm very sorry to hear about the details of the case. I will ask Councillor Coakley to make some general comments about how we respond to the needs of children with special educational needs. And I'm sure if you want to email her afterwards, she'll look into the specific case for you. But I don't want to get into the individual case, you'll understand, on this occasion. So Councillor Coakley-Ware.
Yeah, I was really going to sort of repeat really what Kath has said, is that if you'd like to email me and give me some details, because obviously we can't deal with individual cases here.
Of course, yes.
There's obviously a wide breadth of what we deal with SEND, and a lot of it in the borough is very good, along with the additional funding and what we've been recognised and how we're addressing things. But if you'd like to email me, and then we can correspond directly, and I'll see what I can find out for you.
Okay, how do I get your email address?
If you just look on the council website under councillors, it gives all our email addresses and they all begin CLLR, and then it's, for me, it's dot and then the initial P for Pauline, and then dot and then my surname, Coakley Webb, as one word, at barnet.gov.uk.
What we'll do is we'll put them all in the chat so
Yeah.
you can access them.
Lovely. I look forward to seeing what you've got to say. Thanks, Natalie.
Okay, thank you very much.
And the next question comes from Nora Punasami, and I apologise if I pronounced that incorrectly. Nora, do you want to come off mute? Thank you.
Yep. Hi. Thank you for hosting the session and for allowing me to ask a question. I've just moved into the borough from Harrow, so we've bought a house in Barnet. One of the issues I've noticed is I cannot get a straight answer when I email about the parking arrangement in the place that I live in. I have emailed Barnet Council a number of times, and there is always a non-committal response from this particular individual. And I have phoned somebody in Barnet Council who'd asked me to email this person because the two different parking sort of places that you online that you can get advice as to what the parking restrictions are.
Back onto mute. Do you want to just unmute yourself again?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Thank you. So I want to actually understand. I've moved in on the 6th of September, and from then I've been, there's been this ding dong between myself and the person from Barnet Council without an actual resolution as to whether I need to pay for parking or I don't. There aren't any parking restriction signs where I live.
Can I just ask everyone
I'm
to make
getting
sure they're
nowhere.
mute, apart from Nora? Councillor Schneiderman, did you want to say?
Could we just say first of all, it's a good move moving from Harrow to Barnet. Well done, Nora. Sure you haven't.
Hi, Laura. I mean, it's difficult to say without it probably, again, the best, if you email me, I can check your road and it'll be fairly easy. We should be able to tell you what parking restrictions there are in your road. Without knowing your road, it's difficult to say, but there is a CPZ on the website. If you email in and say your road, then we can let you know what restrictions, if any, do apply in your area.
Sure. Yeah. Need to say it now, or shall I email you?
Oh, but yeah, no, don't give your address on. If you email me your address, we can check that for you.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Laura. Shall we go to Shanbir? Shanbir, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, hi there, guys. I've been a resident of Barnet for near now coming out 40 years, and I've seen quite a lot of drastic changes. One of the drastic changes that I've seen is the amount and volume of crime and type of crime that's now coming into the area. With that, what's happened here is that I can give you an example. So in 2015, by the way, I'm a data scientist and I deal with volumes of data. So I've got all empirical evidence. So it's not a ground feeling, it's not a gut feeling, it's what we're also seeing as well on the ground. But in 2015, if you were to look at all the open spaces in Barnet, Montrose Park and Condale Park accounted for 3.5% of all offences and incidents. Right? In 2000, last year, so 2022, it then accounted for 55% of all crime and offences. Now, this then becomes problematic because now, if I break those crimes down, one of them was drug abuse and violent and sexual assault. Numerous people in our community have been approached. I've also been assaulted. So is my family. Let me give you the numbers here. Montrose and Condale Park account for 20 sexual and violent assaults last year. The second highest was 3. Now, these are regeneration spots. And the problem here is that the promise of these things not happening was made to the residents. And these are this is an area which is down the road from the council, down the road from the police station. So there's a lot of attention around this, and it's underneath the council's and the police's nose. And this is a regeneration spot as well. This is one of the highlights that I've seen, which is then now spilling over, as you'll come to realise, a lot of it was happening at the council offices and the neighbouring residents that live around the council offices as well. So we've seen a massive uptick of this crime, and it's now affecting residents. Like, for example, the female members in my family will not go past Condell Station. I have to pick up my mum further up, where right at the top of the traffic lights, up Condell Station all the way up the road. They refuse to come down and visit me. They refuse because they're scared. So what we've seen from the redevelopment is we've seen an increase in crime, we've seen an increase in density, and it's all happening in regeneration spots. So my question to you guys is really, how's this happened, right? And who is responsible for this? Because at the end of the day, promises were made, guarantees were actually given to the communities, and now I'm struggling to actually even have a decent family life. So those are my two questions. How did this happen, and who's responsible?
So thank you very much, and I'm really sorry to hear how you're feeling. I walk around Barnet and Colindale a lot, and so I am aware of how it can feel at times. We took over the council last May, which is obviously a year and a half ago, and we made community safety a priority. So I can't really speak about what came before, apart from Burnt Oak residents, including some on this call, were very regularly in touch, and we were very regularly raising safety concerns. And I wish we'd been able to get going quicker, but from last summer, we set up a multi-agency task group that meets monthly. It met today, actually. I was here this morning for that meeting. And that looks at bringing everyone together, primarily focused on Graham Park was where we started, because that was felt as the place that was attracting a lot of people in. That's not to say that Graham Park, I mean, my nana lived there, I've been there loads. But there was something happening in Burnt Oak and Graham Park areas, sort of all bits of Colindale, that have been used almost as like an open drugs market, and it's not okay. I've said that in meetings for years now myself. It's not fair, it's not right, it shouldn't be happening. So because of the work that we've been doing, we have been London's first pilot of something called Clear Hole Build, which is going to be renamed Working with the Community, but that's the kind of operation title. That is actually up to well over 200 arrests since August. And that has been targeted on knocking out serious organised crime in this borough, the supply lines across the area. It's a work in progress, and there's plans that run till the end of the year on the policing phase of that. And we're working together with residents and local charities and organisations and Barnet Homes and Notting Hill Genesis on how we take this forward together. There's actually an event tomorrow afternoon on Graham Park that's looking at some of this. I'm really pleased, we are really pleased with the impact it's had so far. It hasn't sorted everything, but the crime figures, and we can send them afterwards to you, and we'll be publishing them sort of as we go into meetings in November. Crime figures are astonishing in terms of some of the crime that's gone down, particularly in this immediate area, and particularly actually on violence against women and girls, which I was really, really pleased to see, and we'll be looking further into that. Alongside that, there's actually been extra policing resource that will carry on to the spring into Burnt Oak and Colindale Edgware because of overspill of the issues and the problems as we disrupt, or the police disrupt, what's going on here. So it's very much a work in progress. The other stuff we've been doing, over the past 4 or 5 years, every single time I've asked anyone from the police, what's the one difference a council can make here, is CCTV, get it working. When we came into office, it wasn't working 70% of the time. I mean, just astonishing. It was pretty useless. So the first thing we did was working with officers who worked incredibly hard to deliver what we promised we said we'd do, is we got it working. So that was by sort of last summer, autumn. And what's happened since, and we opened it, I can't remember now if it was a week or 2 weeks ago because it's been very busy recently. We've invested £2.3 million in a totally all singing, all dancing, I'm told it's the best in London, CCTV system that we brought in-house into our own council because it was the only one in London that was operating miles away. And the police and other partners are really pleased that we have that now. We've also been doing community safety pop-up hubs that sort of appear at different locations around the borough and at community-led events, so that people can talk to us and can report crime and talk about the issues that are worrying them. And also in every single ward of the borough, in fact we had Burnt Oaks a couple of weeks ago, we're doing 2 ward walks every year, with a range of council teams, so that we've got street scene out with us, lighting, highways, because people wanted to talk about road safety as well. The police come when they can, which is pretty often, unless they get sort of taken to something more serious at the time. And we've also brought in something called a public space protection order, which covers across the borough a range of different crimes. So it gives police, again, we were asked to do this to try and help improve safety in this borough. It gives police and our community safety officers more powers to actually sort of move people on, disrupt things that are going on. And it's targeted about antisocial behaviour, drugs, dog fouling, all of that kind of thing, to try and make this a nicer borough to live in. But I'm very happy to have you email me and to carry on the conversation. To come sort of down for a walk. And actually, whilst we're on, there's a women's safety walk in Burnt Oak this Saturday, led by the police, meeting at 3 o'clock by the tube station. Thank you very much.
Could I actually follow that up with a comment rather than a question? It's going to be short.
Very brief, because there are lots of people with their hands up.
I totally understand, so I will keep it short. It's gone from 3.5 to 52%. It sounds great that you're tackling the symptoms, but I haven't heard what the causes are. So maybe we can follow up in email to understand what the causes are. Again, thank you very much.
Well, it's a lot in the cause, but thank
you. And I should have said at the beginning, thank you, Mr. Singh. I should have said at the beginning, we have got, I think, 86 people on this call at the moment, and I've got a lot of people with their hands up. So if people could keep their questions and their answers as brief as possible, then we can allow as many residents to have the opportunity to ask a question. And if we can keep it to 1 question per resident, that would be helpful, and maybe we can get through as many people as possible. The next person I've got is Tom Pfeiffer. Hi, Tom. Don't hear you, but we can't quite hear you. I tell you what, I'm going to go to the next question and come back to you, Tom, because we can't currently hear you. So I'm going to go to Peter Hale.
Yes, hello. I try to be brief, but I'd just like to start by saying thank you very much to Barnet Council for the many good things that they are doing. For example, school streets, play streets policy. I've been involved with Barnet London Borough, the Barnet London Festival of Architecture, and now the London Borough of Culture for 2027. But there is a but. And I'll give you a little bit of context to this question so everybody understands. Now, the council has made a big splash of promoting the installation of electric vehicle charging points around the borough. All very good. In the report to the Cabinet in June 26th from the lead officer, the Director of Street Scene, which was entitled Electric Charge Point Contract Award, Non-Lamp Column Solution, Residential Streets. It recommended the Cabinet to approve the award for supply and installation of 793 EV charge points to Trojan Energy, the Limited, under a 15-year contract term. This is obviously good news. These units are innovative. They remain flush with the pavement in residential streets when not in use. But the report section titled Reasons for the Recommendation, item 1.3, states the Council has also secured funding to support the rollout of 120 Jolt charge points within town centre locations. These charge points will be rolled out throughout the remainder of 2023-24 financial year. Now, there's no description of these Jolt units. We don't know what they are, according to this report. But I can tell you they are large black advertising panels. They are 2.7 metres high, 1.2 metres width, very similar to the JC Deco and the Clearview panels we have in our high streets already, unfortunately. These are advertising units. They're already installed on our pavements, these others. But Jolt also has a separate black feeder box, so there's 2 units per item. Now, these are proposed to go all over the borough. And now, in this report again, a section titled Corporate Priorities, item 4.1 states, our plan for Barnet is based on the three key pillars: people, places and planet, as it says on your banner behind you. We therefore require respect for pedestrians. The report also, in the risk management section, states it is not considered that the issues involved are likely to raise significant levels of public concern or give rise to policy considerations.
Mr. Hale, I'm suspecting that you disagree with that. Can I hurry you to the question? Sorry to interrupt.
Just come on. As a pedestrian, I'm very concerned about this imposition of invasive street clutter on our pavements. So my questions are, have these jolt installations been reviewed and approved by our ward councillors? Have the people of Barnet been consulted about these jolt charge units on their pavements? And has the council electric vehicle infrastructure strategy been published before the installation commences? Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. It's good to see you. So I thought you were going to ask about cycling, but EV charge points is also very good to talk about. I think these jump charge points are a good addition. I think they're a good addition to the town centre because we need to supply more and more people have got electric vehicles, and we need to supply more places where they're able to charge. The advantage of the jolt ones is that as a result of some people don't like the advertising and they're a bit bigger than the others, but as a result of the advertising, we're able to offer people that will be able to get like 15 minutes free charging, and the advertising space that's not sold, we'll be able to give free to local businesses. So they'll be able to make use of that as well. In terms of where they go, every location has been assessed, and there's a planning application for them, so that they only go where there is enough space. So there has to be a minimum width for footways. So we definitely want to make sure that we're not obstructing any footways. So I do understand, there's been a bit of concern about these, but it's a balance between providing the infrastructure, but equally making sure that pedestrians are a priority. We don't want to impede footways.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not going to go any further. There's lots of questions, but the thing is, I'm really concerned about this street clutter. How much more are we going to get? But I'll leave it at that because there's lots of other questions to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. That's noted. Thank you. I'm going to go to my colleague Tristan, who has been looking at the chat, who I think wants to flag questions from the chat.
Yeah, we've had a number of questions come in through the chat, so I'm just going to pick the first one which came to us, which is from John Dix. When are you going to look again at library opening times? New Barnet Library is only open 17 hours a week. Yes, it sits inside a leisure centre. It's 23 hours a week. Before you embark on the Borough of Culture, please address this massive shortfall.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Dix. It's actually in two parts, whether library opening hours can be extended and what the purpose of our Borough of Culture bid is. I don't necessarily think that the two are connected in as much as you've described them. We see the Borough of Culture bid as a catalyst for change in the borough. We would like to use it as an opportunity to look at what the cultural capital we have currently in the borough is and to grow the offer that we have as a destination borough for people to discover the things that we have and to fulfill aspirations and ambitions amongst residents across the entirety of what is a very large and complicated borough. My colleague, Councillor Conway, may want to add some comments in respect of library opening hours, but we want to make sure that libraries are staffed appropriately for the times that they are open and ensuring that all of the current venues that libraries are hosted in are available to the public. So it's a balance between staffed hours and ensuring that those venues remain accessible to the public. Councillor Conway, did you want to add anything to that?
So unless Councillor Conway, you've got something burning to say, we do have really quite a large number of questions, so I will move to the next one.
You didn't answer the question. I'm sorry, you didn't answer the question. this isn't a library which could have self-servicing. I've asked for it repeatedly. The community needs this. You say about culture. There are people who have one of the poorest wards right next to the library. They have no computer access. That library's got a load of computers that sit unused most of the time. It really is a culture issue, and it needs to be addressed.
Thank
And
you.
I'm hugely disappointed that it hasn't been.
Thank you, Mr. Dix. Did you want anything
Well,
further?
if it was specifically about the library and that was the gist of your question, I'm sure we can discuss provisions of it offline if that is the specific thing that you wanted addressed. More than happy to have that discussion, Mr. Dix.
Thank you. I think Tristan's going to pick up one more question.
Correct, yes. So, apologies. The first question that was submitted is from Paul Batchelor. Can I ask why Barnet Homes has such a terrible reputation when working with people with disabilities? Why, when red flags are raised, they're swept under the carpet rather than recognised? Most of these people with disabilities are classed as the most vulnerable in society. I'm living here now with a lady whose son has severe ME, and she's been in a hotel since August. No food assistance, like breakfast for the children. This seems like a terrible failure on Barnet Homes' part, and I would like to know what Barnet Council are doing to address these failings.
So I'm sure Councillor Houston will be happy to pick up the individual case offline, but did you want to make a more general comment, Councillor Houston?
Well, clearly, it is something we expect Barnet Homes to prioritise, and I will take the individual case offline. But yes, we do. Clearly, we have to assess individual cases in accordance with best practice and policy, and find the best solution. I don't want to go into an individual case because that can be fraught with very much a lot of detail. But certainly, contact me direct, and I'll take the case up. That's.
Could I just come in here as well? Thank you, Paul, for your question. So I'm the Cabinet Member for Disabilities, Equalities, Inclusion, and I am really interested in the experience that you have had. So in terms of equalities, we are doing a lot in the Council to make sure that each service is accessible to everyone. In our borough. So I am also working with Barnet Homes in terms of we are now looking at and crafting new policies in terms of EDI. I'm also looking at a report that we're going to be making called the State of the Borough Report, which will highlight all the inequalities that we are addressing within the council. So with Councillor Houston, I would like to look at your particular case and why you feel that you have faced this kind of discrimination and get back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Begg. I'm going to come back to Tom Piper and see if we can hear you this time.
Hello, can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Okay, most other boroughs in London do weekly hand sweeping of residential roads, and Barnet does not. Here, residents are told if they see litter, they need to contact the council and someone will come and remove it. This is unrealistic to me. Litter is dropped all the time. It's a fact of life, and no amount of fines or warnings or awareness courses is going to change that. The result I see is that when I walk around my neighbourhood, I can see litter everywhere along roads and in parks. Every day I find myself removing crisp packets and other plastic items from my front garden that have blown in from the street. I've lived in 5 London boroughs, some of them with similar social profiles to Barnet and comparable budgets, but none have a litter problem like Barnet. I have the impression that people in the borough have got so accustomed to seeing litter in their environment that they've come to assume it's something normal. However, it's quite the opposite is the reality, and under the Environmental Protection Act of 1990, it's the council's duty to ensure that land for which it is responsible is kept clear of litter and refuse. This is patently not happening across much of the borough. My question is, do you agree that the policy of the previous administration regarding council litter collection was wrong and it needs to change? And if so, what is your plan for restoring weekly hand street sweeping to residential roads, and within what time frame?
Mr. Snyder, that sounds like one for you.
Hi Tom, good to see you, and Thank you for your emails on this subject. I am very happy to walk around your area with you and have a look at the situation in your road and in your in the areas that you walk around. I mean, in general. So when this administration took over last year, we doubled the amount of residential street sweeping compared with previously. Now that is done daily in town centres, but in other residential areas, that's now done on a quarterly basis, in addition to reactive reports when they come in. So we did double it because it was only done twice a year before. So I say town centres are done daily. There aren't many London boroughs that sweep all their residential roads on a daily basis. So generally, and the Keep Britain Tidy figures for Barnet have actually shown marked improvement since last year. So the streets are getting cleaner, but there are problems in particular areas, and stop litter is exceedingly difficult. So we're always looking at what we do. We have different, you mentioned hand sweeping, which we do some of, but we're also looking at what new technology can be used to more efficiently cover larger areas. So, like on the whole, things are getting better. That's what the independent stats say. But yes, I will walk around your area and see what we can do there.
So there's basically no plan to get in line with most other boroughs in London and do weekly street sweeping. Because
I mean, no authority apart from Westminster that does every street every week. I'll just have a look up.
Yeah, we just wouldn't have the resources to do that.
Everybody's cut back on it. You're talking about something that could cost £100 million. If you think about it, every street. Do you know how many streets we have in Barnet?
Well, I was just
A1, M1.
Sure, but I did a kind of random survey of the websites of the other councils, and they all say that this is what they do. Whether they're doing it, I mean, I don't know, but at least it's their aspiration, which is seems like the minimum to me. I'm certainly shocked by the amount of litter in the borough, and I think I'm probably not the only one.
I mean, there was one area actually. There's one residents' association said, "I'm going to call off our litter pick because there wasn't enough litter." Now, I said that's not a picture of the borough, so let's go. I'll come round with you and have a look at your area.
Thank you, Councillor Sloan. But I am going to move us on, Mr. Fife, if that's okay. I've got Uday Patel next.
Hi, thank you, everyone, for taking this call. I have a question specific to Collindeep Lane. I've been a resident of here for about over 34 years, and I've seen a progressive deterioration in the environment around this area, in particular where the A5 meets, that part of Barnet. I've seen heavy traffic come up and down this lane at high speed. There are no traffic calming measures at all. And I speak for a number of residents when I say that our houses literally shake every time a heavy vehicle comes zooming around. This road is also used as a rat run, and I guess it's on everyone's sat nav as well. And it's now getting to the stage where we're all kind of breathing in quite pretty toxic fumes, and we notice it within our houses as well. You leave a window open, and all of a sudden you've got black soot on your windowsill, right? So my question really is: are there any plans for any kind of reduction in the traffic around this area? And we're talking 24/7. We're not talking peak traffic times. We're talking all through the day, all through the night. Thank you.
Hi, Uday. Thanks for your question. I think it's difficult with Colin Deep Lane because it is such a busy road and is used as as a through road by so many vehicles. I mean, in other areas, we are looking as part of our transport policy to make it easier to get 20-mile-an-hour zones in areas where that's appropriate to try and slow down the traffic. So I'm happy to get back to you on Colin Deep Lane. I'm sure I'll need to check what things have been looked at before, but it is difficult because it's quite a major road and quite a through route for lots of people. So it's a tricky one in terms of restricting traffic on that road.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It wasn't always like this. Like I've said, I've been living here for over 30 years. Right now, this is not a particularly quiet road. I get that, right? Because it's a kind of a through road. But what we've seen over the years is an increase in the volume of traffic. Fine, but the previous administration has been very almost turning a blind eye to it. Almost sort of encouraging traffic to come, through this road. And we're not just talking about cars, right? We're talking about extremely heavy duty trucks. There's a recycling facility down the road where you have a huge lorries with scrap metal that come thundering down the road. And as I've said, our houses are shaking every time. We get vibrations coming through every time these lorries are coming down the road, right? And I for one thought, with the new administration and especially, Colindale Ward, North and South in particular, has always voted for the current administration. That we just thought there would be kind of a change to the council and not this sort of development on steroids, that we had with the previous administration, but. To my mind, with this respect, nothing really has changed.
We are looking as part of the transport strategy about active travel and trying to, encourage, more people to use public transport, more people to cycle, and more people to walk. And I think, we'll take it offline. I'll come back to you about Colin Deep Lane. But as I say, I think because of the businesses there and it's a through route, it is going to be difficult to do a lot there, but certainly we can, look at if there's a lot of speeding, we can certainly look at what can be done there.
I think, and or width restrictions, right? You can have width restrictions. Emergency vehicles can get through the middle, right? You have that on a lot of roads in Brent. You can have that. You can have more.
But we do have a lot of people who
Can we just say we are willing to look at any solution, and with Alan, we can go down and work with you. To get a longer term answer means working on the whole A5 corridor, working with Harrow, Brent, and Transport for London for the main roads to find a solution. But you're right, there's more traffic, and there's also heavier traffic, and that's having an effect on the roads. So if we can find a solution, you can be part of that solution if we come down and talk about it, yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is just from Mark. Enigmatically noticed.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for providing this facility to allow us to talk to you. I've been living in the borough for 49 years. What strikes me this evening is how many of the questions and discussion are around challenges to do with traffic and parking, etc. And it's apparent from this and previous discussions just how much you as councillors have on your plate. And credit and respect to all of you for the huge amount of work you take on. Now, in saying that, my question is addressed to Councillor Alan Schneiderman. Alan, you'll know that I emailed you, I think 13 weeks ago. I was very, very chuffed and impressed that you responded within about half an hour of my email to you about major traffic and parking issues in the area where I live. And you said you would refer the query to officers and you would get back shortly. And since then, we've heard nothing. I live in Garden Suburb, by the way. Outside my house, in the last 2 years, there have been 4 accidents that have required people being taken to hospitals. 3 have necessitated police and ambulances coming. And in one case, my wife actually rushed a pregnant woman to the Royal Free Hospital because ambulances couldn't get through to us. It seems to me that we are in total disarray around the policy for traffic control, parking control, and CPZs. In the borough in general, and in particular, of course, what matters to me and my neighbours is in the area where I live. And so, Alan, I'm asking, what do you advise? Because we've had no response since your kind email response 13 weeks ago. There's been no movement on the issues to do with CPZ. I happen to live at the closest point to Golders Green Station, where parking is freely available. The result of that is commercial vehicles, commuter parking, holiday parking, vehicles being left by panel beaters because they can't keep them outside their premises, are all being parked in the area where I live, and it's increasing crime, pollution, accidents. And as I've said to you in my emails, so far we've had some serious injuries, but someone unfortunately is going to die one day because this has not been looked at. So happy to take it offline. I don't want to get too particular about our case, but Alan, what is your advice as to how we best take this forward? Thank you.
Yeah, well, we might need to continue offline, but there have been a lot of discussions about CPZ in your area, and it's been tied up with, as you probably know, with the original proposal for a wider scheme in that area that the members did not want to go ahead, and that's what's affected, the particular roads that you're concerned about. But we do need, because there is a road safety aspect to it, we do need to have a look at it. So I'll go back to officers. So although the major CPZ proposal, the wider one, might not be going ahead, we should see what can be done, particularly regarding the road safety angle.
Yes, please. Thank you. Alan, I look forward to hearing back from you, please. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. George Theodore, you're next.
Yes, hello. I have a twofold question actually related to planning. The first issue is related to, well, there's been quite a lot of planning applications to the west of Chipping Barnet that are involving Greenbelt. There's one ongoing at the moment, but it shouldn't be ongoing, but the comments haven't stopped apparently. But the paddock on Maze Lane that is being proposed as a stationing for caravans for travellers. There is the Rowley Lodge on Rowley Lane as well, that all involve Greenbelt, and potentially a new Islamic community centre also on Maze Lane. My question is, there's lots of information online about the protections that are afforded to Greenbelt. Indeed, a lot of the council policy documents evidence how it should be protected, but what can the council do to assure the residents, particularly in this area, that they are going to be taken seriously? And the second part of the question actually relates to the planning process. With the comments, because of in particular the paddock and the caravan site is quite a contentious planning application. A lot of people are not commenting because they're afraid of repercussions if their names and addresses are coming up on site on the planning portal. There have been repercussions for some people. Their names and addresses have been published on social media as examples of xenophobia. So my second question is the council willing to do something about removing or redacting people's names and addresses on the planning portal? I did actually approach the council about that. I had an email back saying that it was national policy, which is why they wouldn't remove names and addresses. But that's not the case, because Hull City Council don't allow names and addresses on their planning portal. I just think it's the way Barnet's interpreted the Town and Country Planning Act. So those are my two questions.
Thank you. Councillor Houston.
Yes, I mean, all I would say is that we obviously have a framework of policies around the green belt. Planning is a quasi-judicial matter, so the members of the committee have to make a decision based on the evidence that they get, and obviously the representations that they put in. And they have to, you know, they need to make those decisions on the basis of the planning framework, and that includes obviously the protections around the green belt and about all the sort of policy framework that's put in place to make sure that our green spaces are protected within planning policy. I'd always encourage people to put in representations on a planning application. I think on the specific issue about anonymising contributions, I mean, that's really the council's interpretation is that they're not able to do that in terms of the legislation allows. I will challenge that. I will take that back to officers and see if there's any other mechanism we can use to allow people to have their representations heard. I mean, I hear what you're saying about that particular application. So yes, I think I will take that back with officers. And we've got your contact details, so I will get back to you about that.
Yeah, can I just come in? Georgia, I know that you have written to me about this particular issue, and officers have written back to you to explain why some of the information went out on a public website, and they're saying we can't consider everything in that respect. So we will have a look at it again, but as the application has now gone to planning, and I believe that the planning consultation date has closed, so we can't comment on that, but the issues that you raised about how public the information can go out, we definitely will challenge with officers.
Thank you, Councillor Begg. I'm going to go on to Saz Walker.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for taking my question. I'd actually like to ask the question about specifically how Barnet looks after its carers. In April, Barnet actually reduced carers' hours by about 12 hours per week. How do Barnet expect people to keep caring for vulnerable adults when they lower the hours, which mean that they then need to seek further employment and will therefore no longer be able to look after these vulnerable adults? I've been speaking to Barnet Council to dispute this for about 7 months now, because the reasonings they gave me for reducing.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I've accidentally muted. I do apologise. Could you just unmute
That's
yourself?
all right, yeah, I've just
totally my fault. I do apologise.
No worries. So basically, I've been trying to speak to Barnet Council about this, to dispute this, and their reasonings for reducing the hours basically show a lack of understanding about certain illnesses that vulnerable adults have. They've been ignoring me now for 7 months, despite me escalating this to their superiors. 3 weeks ago, I still haven't gotten a response. The particular carer in question is now struggling financially and has been for as long as this has been going on. And we're just no closer to resolving this. And I'm just at my wit's end about what we can actually do to actually get a response and find out if there's anything we can do.
So unfortunately, Councillor Paul Edwards couldn't be with us tonight. So Lida, did you want to comment?
I can try. Obviously, I need more details, and I can't talk about an individual case in that way. But are we talking about a carer that's provided for a person, or somebody who gets a personal payment to pay for their own carer?
So I'm not quite sure how your system works, but basically the parent is looking after a vulnerable adult who is an adult, basically. So you at Barnet consider her to be employed by her son. So he pays certain amounts, and then she also receives certain payments.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's done through the personal payments. I'm quite happy to look at the case and ensure you get an answer. I can't promise it's an answer that will you necessarily like or will give everything, but you deserve an answer if you've been tracing it up. How those decisions are made are usually through an assessment. I think there has to be an assessment or a review before something can.
Yeah, this is actually the second dispute because they've sent us their report and their report is actually factually incorrect. So I've actually got several things that I'm trying to talk to them about because what they've put in the report is factually incorrect and they won't even adjust the report to actually reflect how they are being cared for. So I've got several issues that I just can't seem to get any answers about.
The proper way is to put in a complaint about that, but I realise it's more bureaucratic and these things can last weeks. Quite happy, and it's in the chat, for you to email me directly and I will talk to the Director of Adult Services about how this came about and whether it needs another look at. It has to go through a review and assessment. You know, there has to be an audit trail to explain what the money is being used for. But I'm quite happy to ask for the case to be reviewed if you send me the details.
Lovely. Can I just take your email address? Sorry.
I don't know if you could open up the track, which is on the. Are you on the laptop on the top row?
Yes, I am. Yes.
The second icon track. If you press on that, the track should come up alongside, and it's got my email there.
I'm in the chat, so I can't quite see it.
What
was your name? Sorry, I can have a look at it.
Barry Rawlings, it say leaders address.
Yes, okay, yes, I have your email address. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll forward you our current chain, and if you could help us, that would be amazing.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could ask people that aren't asking a question to stay on mute so that we minimise background noise, that'd be amazing. Thank you. I'm going to come to one more question on the hands up and then go to the text for a couple of questions maybe. But Tina Elliott, did you want to ask your question? Tina, you're still on mute, so you'll need to unmute yourself.
I'm on now.
Right, yeah, we've got a bit of echo, so everyone.
Thank you for taking my question. I'll be very succinct. You are sitting ironically in front of our plan for Barnet 2023 to 2026. Mr. Chairman, may I ask you, are you comfortable that your planning department breaches your guidelines? I don't want to go into specifics, but I can. We are involved in a planning application objection at the minute. There's a planning meeting coming up and they are in breach of Barnet guidelines.
Proximity. It's a difficult one because without knowing the case and hearing both sides of it, but on the first part of your question, I'm quite happy to be sitting with our plan for Barnet. It's about a vision for a different type of Barnet for the 21st century. And we did put it forward and people voted for it, and that's why we're happy with that. That doesn't refer to a particular planning application. Many people, it's one of the business planning departments in the country. Again, if people want to, on cases like that, yeah, you have to email individually. I can't ask about what planning application. I can't make any planning decision. That is for the planning committee. Yeah. And it is councillors who will make the decision if it goes to a committee, the planning officers. But if you need to point out something to the committee that you feel hasn't been done properly, let me know and we can make sure. You have done that already.
We have done that and we've had no response. The delegated report is now obviously on the agenda and there is a very specific item of proximity which has not been addressed at all. And I believe that it is actually council's responsibility to follow the guidelines, and I wondered how you felt about it.
Well, as far as you're right, it is the council's responsibility to follow the guidelines. In your opinion, they haven't. I don't know the case you're talking about. Happy to look at it and add my opinion. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Tina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Tristan, can I ask you for some questions from the chat, please?
Certainly. So, first question going back to 7:13, because we've had quite a few questions coming in from Becky. She just gives her name as Becky. Please, can you advise if there is a statutory time period for Barnet Plan or for the Council Tax Office to contact constituents' emails, or to reply to constituents' emails?
The council tax, presumably.
Yes, correct. It says, yeah, so Barnet Planning or the Council Tax Office to respond to constituents' emails.
We would expect all emails to be answered in a reasonable time, maybe within a couple of weeks. It depends if they have to look up information and find out things. There's not a statutory requirement. In other words, there's not a law that says something has to be answered in X number of days. But it would be good practice, and one of the things we are looking at, obviously, is the council practice. Again, without specifics, I don't mind tracing these things up. Why there isn't a statutory one? You might ask a question about council tax that may be straightforward about single person's discount, or you might ask one which is about somebody who's moved 3 times, who had a different sort of tenancy, who had lodgers and so on, and would be a far more complicated one, which is why you can't give an exact time. But I would be disappointed if you haven't got a reply in a reasonable time. That's all I can say. Yeah, I mean, people making the cut. She's not talking about councillors' reply. She's talking about the council tax office. And as I say, it depends how complicated the case is. But if you say you have emailed and got no reply after a length of time, I do find that disappointing and happy to ask questions about it.
Yes, so next question also from 7:13 from Manuel Spurgeon. Another planning question. In view of the likelihood of Labour forming the government at the next election, what are the challenges for the borough and green spaces, particularly now that Labour has confirmed bulldozing local opposition to any house building plans?
Oh, that's news to me. I was at the conference and that definitely wasn't said. But I think you've got your own interpretation there. Plan,
Yeah. I mean, I think the conference covered some of the frustrations around how the planning process works, and one of the particular frustrations when I was at the conference was around the fact that quite a lot of boroughs refuse or deliberately don't have local plans in place. And we do have housing targets, and we do have homeless people, and we do need to, as boroughs, fulfil our obligations to homeless people. And if some boroughs are doing their bit and other boroughs and other local authorities, county councils, district councils are not, then actually there is a role for government to actually make sure that happens. We're in a good position because we will, I think by early next year, have an adopted local plan. And that it will have been agreed by inspectors. It's been through several years of consultation, and we've made changes since we've been in administration, but it was very much in its last stages. And we've certainly on the environment, we've tried to put a number of changes in which we think the inspector will accept. So we are in a good position because we will have that local plan in position. There was talk about in some areas where there is green belt that's actually car parks and it isn't green, that actually maybe that should be looked at. That was mentioned at the conference. We have a very clear policy in Barnet as an administration that we will not touch the green belt. And actually we don't have green belt that kind of, our green belt is largely green. I'm not aware of any, what they call grey belt areas of Barnet. But we as an administration have a very clear policy on that. So I think, there is an issue, there's a genuine issue, and I get frustrated as the council when I see that certain boroughs in London do not provide our city with what they should do in terms of bringing forward affordable housing. I also see, I have a genuine frustration about county councils and district councils that don't do their bit. And I think that's what you heard at the Labour Party conference. Was that incoming Labour government is not going to allow that to happen. And it's going to be more forceful about having regional targets. But there's no idea that local democracy should be bulldozed over. I certainly didn't hear that.
Take one more question from the chat and then go to Labour after that.
Certainly. So next question again from 713 from someone who gives his name or her name is Chris. Why is the only place to dump rubbish in Summers Lane? This is of no use to people in West Hendon who don't have a car. Skips are a good idea, but the items allowed on the skips are limited.
We've got Summers Lane, we have got the skips as well, and there are other options as well. Particularly, there's a free service if you've got large electrical items that you want to dispose of. If you go to the website, there's actually a service that Barnet is part of through the North London Waste Authority, where they'll come around and collect that from your house. So if you have a look at the website, and there are other options as well. If it's like furniture, there are groups that collect that. So we will look at what items. The skip service has been quite successful, but we will look at reviewing what items can be collected through the skips. But if you look on the website, there are, depending on what you're trying to dispose of, there are other potential options available.
Thank you, Councillor Schneiderman. I'm going to go back to the hands, and it's Rachel Leffman who's next.
Hello. Thank you for having my question. I don't think I need to highlight the problem of the potholes and the state of the pavements in Barnet. So I'm sure everyone's aware of that, and I have written to the council a few times and not really had any reply. So my question is, why does this happen? Why are there so many potholes? Do you review tenders, the quality of the work, the quality of the materials used? Because it seems to me that where I live, the potholes are filled in like a patchwork, and then they turn back into potholes. So the quality of the work and the materials used, as far as I'm concerned, not good enough. So who reviews this, and who reviews who is doing the work? Are they private companies or council workers? And with regards to my pavement, which the pavements are really dangerous, and I would just like to ask whether it would be possible to arrange for private companies like BT, Virgin Media and so on to make a contribution to restoring our pavements and roads when they dig them up, because it seems that they're not held to account and then the residents suffer.
Well, thanks, Rachel. I mean, it's we could spend the whole time talking about potholes, but it's interesting we've had some other subjects before getting on to potholes.
Yeah.
I mean, to start at the last bit you said regarding BT, Virgin and other companies, it's not about them contributing. They are required to restore the footway on the highway to the standard it was before they dug it up. So, we do check that, and our engineers will get onto them if that's not done. So if you've got any examples of that, then do let us know. I mean, the underlying state of a lot of Barnet's roads is not as good as it has been, because for many years not enough money has gone into it, so the underlying condition is not very good, which makes it more prone to potholes. We have just recently announced an extra £8 million over 2 years, and we are trying to put as much as possible into getting those potholes fixed, and indeed doing some proper resurfacing, of roads. Sometimes they're just repaired temporarily, and then they'll come back and do a proper repair afterwards. So that's why you'll sometimes see a temporary repair that maybe doesn't look brilliant, because it's not supposed to be permanent. It's just there to make the road safe in advance of a more permanent repair being done. So we're looking at the programme now for next year of roads and footways that need to be repaired. But please do report if there are that in addition to that planned maintenance, we always will do reactive maintenance where there are dangerous bits of road or dangerous footways. But it is a problem because there's so much that needs to be done. But we are starting to tackle that by putting in some extra money, as I say.
I would personally look into the materials being used, because I don't actually think the materials being used are up to purpose. And I know that my husband, he's in the TV business, and they did a program looking into, for example, this new substance that you could use, which was basically made out of recycled plastic, that was used to pave roads or whatever, tarmac roads. Anyway, that's a new idea.
Yes. We are looking at that, Rachel. We have done some roads with like recycled tires, and we're looking at something called thermo patching, where it actually recycles, takes a bit of the surface out, but actually recycles that back into the road, so it's more environmentally friendly as well. So yeah, we are looking at what new technologies can help in this area.
I would like to send you an email about my particular pavement, which hasn't been the same since Virgin Media dug it up, and it's quite actually really hazardous, and it's getting worse every year. So can I write to you?
No, definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely get that looked at, because they are required to make that good. The other thing we're doing is we've also introduced a scheme where people are doing building works. So we will take action if people damage the highways when they're doing building works. So that's another thing that we're trying to do. But yeah, if you drop me a line about your particular road, I'll get
okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm going to ask questioners and the panel if we can start to keep answers, sort of questions and answers, shorter and sweeter, because we've still got 14 people with their hands up, and we've only got 17 minutes. So we're going to try and do some kind of quick fire questions and answers to try and give everyone a chance to ask something. And I will come back to Tristan towards the end just to flag any themes in the chat that we haven't had covered this evening. James Sims, I apologise, I have muted you a couple of times. I know you were just getting ready, but you had some background noise, so apologies for muting you if you want to ask your question now.
Yes, hello there. Good evening, panel. I read today in the Barnet Times a rather frustrated observational letter from a member of the public regarding Lodge Lane car park, talking about possibly moving the View Cinema or the Hollywood Bowl from where it is currently to the Lodge Lane car park site, perhaps also putting a community centre there. Now, as I understand it, that at the last meeting there were no councillors at the last public consultation, and I would have thought that the retail sector in North Finchley need removal of its main car park like a hole in the head. So I wonder whether you'd be able to shed some light on that. And just as an aside, it is the case that last week at the Labour Party conference, Sir Keir Starmer did say we'll bulldoze through planning resistance. And so can I ask you all, is that a democratic policy Barnet Labour endorses?
I think we've probably covered the second half of that, but Councillor Houston, can I ask you to answer on North Finchley?
Yeah, I think I've covered the second point. It's about councils that refuse to step up to the mark, which is not acceptable. And they tend to be of, well, I'm not going to get into politicise it, but it's in terms of Lodge Lane, I mean, obviously, one of the things that we have been taking forward is we inherited a supplementary planning document and subsequent to that land agreement with Regal London to take forward the regeneration of North Finchley. Now, we have been in regular negotiation with them over plans, and as part of that we consulted over a plan to move the Finchley line, and we did a public consultation, and the majority of people wanted the rider to stay in the current site, so that's what we are doing. But it is a long process of speaking to communities about the vision for what we want to see in Lodge Lane. We are not the developer. This was something that was put in place. The developer have come forward with some ideas and they're consulting on them. Now, I have been at quite a number of council-led consultation meetings in North Finchley, and as many residents will know, and I work very closely with the local residents associations there. So I deliberately didn't go to the Regal ones, because actually what they're proposing is they're putting proposals forward that they will then take to the council. They're not our proposals, and I don't want people to be confused to think that they are our proposals. And if I was there, I think that potentially gives that impression. So we're in a dialogue with them. We're also in a dialogue with the local residents associations. We have a partnership board which we put in which was put in place a couple of years ago, which I chair, and that has all the key stakeholders from residents, associations and businesses. So what we very much want to do is work with residents to take forward what could be a successful regeneration of a town centre. Town centres are struggling, and I think listening to people is a way of getting this right. But Lodge Lane was part of the land agreement that we inherited as an administration, and it is one of the areas that was planned to have this regeneration. And parking is one of the issues that we're going to have to look at in relation to the overall. When something comes to planning, it will go to the planning committee, and they're going to have to look at the supplementary planning document and make sure that proposals address issues like infrastructure, parking, and viability of the town centre. There is a supplementary planning document in place, and we were very clear that we want any development proposals to stick within that planning document.
Thank you, Councillor.
Please.
I'm going to rattle on because we have sort of a lot of people with their hands up. So Sanjay Doshi.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. The question I wanted to ask, basically I live near schools, and like everywhere, the schools are often at sort of full or over capacity. And for the local residents, it's not a very nice atmosphere, and this is happening year by year. So basically, we're getting abuse from sort of parents. There's antisocial behaviour, reckless driving. We've tried to engage with a certain school on our road, but the school is just not interested. The other option we have opted for is to speak to the Board of Governors, but they're not providing any details of the Board of Governors. We've had a look at their website. There's no details of Board of Governors. So I just wanted to know what the council's policy is regarding sort of putting Board of Governors details on websites, or who we can contact where the schools do not want to engage with local residents.
Thank you, Sanjay. Councillor Coakley, is that something you're able to speak to?
Yeah. Hi, Sanjay.
Hi.
Is this? Have you been in correspondence with me via Councillor Radford? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so I know which school.
Sorry, I didn't want to name it in public.
But I've got a good memory. I actually chased this with an email to the new chair of governors this week. And as you know, they go on half term after tomorrow. So I will still look out for a reply and will still push them to get a response for you. So I'm sorry you've not had any communication from them as yet, but it's not that I haven't asked. I'm just wanting to find out who and when someone will get in touch with you.
Sure. It's not only myself. Other residents are having issues as well. So sort of, there's literally no engagement from the school with the local residents to tackle issues, of abuse of residents and sort of things like sort of, 8 o'clock in the morning, you hear horns down the road.
I know what you mean, and my involvement with the school has been more years than I care to remember. I even know we used to have occurrences where even disgruntled parents would basically chase governors down the drive when we'd actually tried to tackle them. I think the difficulty we always have is that the jurisdiction for the school ends at the school gates. And I was in a meeting pre the election with highways officers that was supposed to be trying to look at the problems, because it's not just that school, it's the secondary school nearby, and that going round just causes absolute chaos. But obviously it's a school I know, but it's not my ward. But I will still go back to the officers that we asked, because I know that ages ago the school in question, we tried to see if we could get agreement to have a one-way system just for the school picking up and dropping off times. But again, you've got to get complete. By the time we've done that, there's so many being changes as to who lives there. I'd have to go back to traffic officers and go, well, we flagged this up ages ago. If and when, what are you going to suggest that we can do, or that you can do as highways officers to actually throw some light as to how we can improve the situation. So I understand what it's like, especially on that blind bend. I know that we've had problems going back probably 25 years, on both sides, with people that think they can virtually drive up to the classroom door, which is not the case. But yeah, I remember your name. I will chase it again, and by all means, feel free to send me a reminder email, because obviously the inbox just fills up on a daily basis. But I'll spot your name, and I'll make sure that I will look out to get the reply that I've asked for, that I chased up this week. But obviously with half term, I might have to wait a bit to chase it up again for you.
Thank you very much for your help, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Adam Davis. You want to come on mute?
Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yep, we can now.
Yep. So since Barnet supported ULEZ, I can now no longer drive to my 80-plus-year-old parents in my 1 litre petrol vehicle. They have to now come to me in their 3 litre, 3-ton diesel 4x4, but they have nowhere to park because we have 2 parking bays on our street that cover 15 houses and 25 cars. Each parking bay is 2.5 cars long, and we were promised 3 years ago that they would be extended to be 3 cars long so that we could actually put 1 more car each in the bays. That was 3 years ago. We were promised it was going to happen in a month's time for approximately 18 months. Then they went absolutely quiet. Then we raised a complaint. Then, after a year's worth of complaints, we find out that the complaints are going to the exact department that they're complaining about. We were asked to give reference numbers. We did that. That was nearly a year ago. The gentleman who first raised this complaint has since passed away. How do we get the highways or parking, whichever department it is, to actually do what they've promised to do and or to respond to formal complaints put through the Barnet Council's website? It's been over a year. We've had nothing back. We have 11 reference numbers.
I'm very sorry to hear that, Mr. Davis. Councillor Schneiderman, very quickly respond.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Adam. I'm afraid if you just send me the details, I'll pass it on and follow it up. So I don't know what's happened, but certainly you need to get a response. So I'm happy to follow it up for you.
And also there is a procedure for dealing with complaints. That it doesn't seem like that was followed either.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a couple more from the hands up. If we don't get to you, please do email your question to Barnet Question Time, all one word, at barnet.gov.uk, which colleagues will put in the chat as well. And I will very quickly at the end come to Tristan to see if there are any themes that have been running through the chat that haven't been addressed at all this evening, and we can very quickly address those. So Martin Boss, if you could be super quick, that would be much appreciated.
Yes, hello everyone. My wife and I moved to Barnet, Underhill, 4 years ago because we wanted a house with a garden and to start a family. We have a 2.5-year-old boy now, which is great, of course. However, we cannot use the garden because our neighbors keep smoking large amounts of cannabis and the smoke keeps coming into our garden. We've contacted the council numerous times. The response has either been, speak to Barnet Homes or the police, we're not doing anything. At one point, they even denied that was happening. Like within an hour, we got the response, there's nothing going on. Without them visiting us, without them doing anything. So we are now considering moving out of Barnet again because we want to live somewhere where we can actually have a garden and use it and not have our boys subjected to cannabis fumes. We've contacted both councillors for Underhill. They either don't reply or say, talk to Barnet Homes, it's not us. Do we need to move out of Barnet, or will Barnet Council do something against antisocial behaviour? This is really, I'm getting emotional. I want to have a happy life here, but you're just doing nothing and our neighbours are laughing at us. They're seriously laughing at us.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry to hear this, and I know from listening to lots of residents how these sort of things can really affect people. If you want to email me, I will raise it and possibly even call like a multi-agency meeting to address it and to see what's going on. And we can ask a community safety officer from here to look into complex ASB issues as well.
Thank you.
One thing we have done, because we do realise it's a problem, since we've been in is greatly increase the size of our community safety and give them new powers and so on. But we should be involved. And it's difficult. All I can do is apologise for
Community safety
we
officer
should
for Underhill replied within an hour that nothing's going on, without visiting us even.
I don't understand
Paul
that.
Dixon. We've complained about that. The complaint was not granted. We've raised the complaint again. It was not granted. We're going to speak to the... I mean, you're just doing nothing. I will email you, but...
That sounds strange, because if you raise a complaint and you're not happy with it, you can take it up further. Say nothing was done. It's up to you to take it to say you want it to go to the highest
and we will do that. And it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. I have a job as well. I have a family. I prefer the council to actually take action against antisocial behaviour instead of ignoring it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And do follow that up with Councillor Conway, because I know she will look into it. Tristan, are there any topics that have been raised in the chat that just haven't come up at all this evening that you think we should ask one quick question on?
Yeah, certainly. So the one thing that has cropped up in the questions that haven't in the chat that haven't come across from the hands up is just about our policies around equalities, diversity and inclusion. So one person here has asked about accessing council information without having to exchange personal information about herself, particularly around environmental health and public health. So I won't go into the details of what she's asking for here, but perhaps if we could just sort of cover off what, as a council, our commitments are to promoting equality, diversity and inclusion.
Hello, so thank you for asking this question. Yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand exactly what information that you are trying to access, but we do have information where we can reveal certain information, some we may not. But in terms of equalities, general information is available under equalities, diversity, inclusion. We keep a lot of data in the council on EDI, and that can be some that we can reveal. So we have a lot of data, for example, on our staff, whether they're getting the information they need, whether they're needing to have more information. We work also very much in the community with EDI. So I'm working with communities all the time, the voluntary sector all the time, because none of our policies can be drafted without your input from the community. So we don't work without co-producing all our policies with you in the community. If you have anything in particular that you're not getting from the council, then obviously you can email me and I can send information to you. I'm not sure I've answered all of your questions, so please ask me again. You've got like 1 minute left.
Well, I think that was a sort of composite question.
It was a composite question. So it was sort of particularly around accessing information from environmental health and about public health, but I can share that with the council.
So Alison, do you want to come in? I was just going to come in because
I picked that up from the chat earlier, and I think it was particularly about public health messaging. And obviously, the council puts out a lot of public health messages, which come through the proactive messages through Barnet First, for which people sign up, and that may be where the data issue is arising, but also putting out through social media channels, and of course there is always public health guidance and information on the website that you can access proactively yourself. But in terms of the issue around having to put in individual specific data, maybe we could take that offline and have a look at are we allowing people to access that in as most proactive way as possible. Because those public health messages are very often really important. It's around vaccination, it's around a whole range of other issues.
And I suspect it's about the My Account system, and usually you can report or get information without that, but I understand it's not always as straightforward.
Yes, so let's make sure that gets responded to.
One more quick question. We've had a number of questions about antisocial behaviour, but sort of two questions in particular about the use of e-scooters on pavements and what we're doing to address the problems that sort of arise from that, sort of particularly with the threat to older people using pavement.
An Alan question, or
well, they shouldn't be used on payments.
No, they shouldn't. Yeah, I think the short answer is they shouldn't be. And if the police were there, they would be able to give out tickets. And equally, if the community safety team see them, they will also be able to do likewise. I think it's just a question of reporting. If there's a particular hotspot for it, do let us know. But it unfortunately is a bit of a growing problem across London.
Yeah. And the other thing, as you probably know, things like the scooters don't have registration things. So even if someone's caught on the camera, it's very hard to find out who's doing it and so on. I'm not trying to be depressed, but some of this is about how we can enforce national legislation. And if the national legislation's not there, it becomes very vague about what powers we have. Not an excuse, but it's just a reality. We can only act within the powers we're allowed to act within.
Thank you, Lisa. We are very slightly over. Anna, Joan, Wayne, others, I do apologise that you didn't get to ask your questions. If you do email them to barnetquestiontime@barnet.gov.uk, we will make sure you get an answer. Lisa, is there anything you wanted to say in conclusion?
No, but I see there's been a lot in the chat, and we will look through that and reply. Well,
Thank you. Thank you, Cabinet members. Thank you to all of those who've given up your evenings to talk to us. It really is incredibly valuable, and we do appreciate you giving up your time.
And the intention is that these are quarterly, so there'll be another one soon after the sort of Christmas, Hanukkah, Diwali time. Yeah, in the new year. That's the word I was looking for.
Thank you, everybody. I think that concludes the meeting.
Thank you.